Welcome back to Youth Elect TT, where we're still meeting our candidates. And so far, I think we have a really interesting group of candidates.
Amazing.
Now, Jay, earlier on, I know you were pulling from the archives,
Yes.
you know, teaching me a thing or two, but I think I could teach you something today, you know. Did you know that on March the 23rd, back in 1903, there was a water riot that took place right here around the Red House in Port of Spain? Now, more than 3,000 people came out to protest the increasing cost of water, and as a result, the rioters burning the Red House to the ground.
The reason I know what you're saying is accurate, I was actually there. And the funny thing is, the issues that had people upset back then are still relevant today when you look at even that commodity called water.
You have a point, you have a point.
I wonder if Richard Oliver, our next candidate, can bring about change in that department. Let's check out Richard Oliver.
I am Richard Anton Oliver, and I am going to be your next Youth Prime Minister.
We can come here today and talk about the education system, where the international standard is to revamp the system in 3 years. The ministry's policy is 5 years, but the actuality is 10 years, but we're not going to talk about that today.
I've had many challenges, many adversity, but I'm always there looking at what my end goal is, you know. At the end of the day, adversity causes some to break and others to break records. Another word that describes me is a patriot. I am fully sold on the idea of developing Trinidad and Tobago, and that there must be full participation by everyone involved.
What stood out for me with Richard was that, you know, he always showed this leadership quality about him, whether it be through the cricket team, in the library when we read in books and those sorts of stuff. He always showed this sort of leadership, this want to be a leader sort of style about him.
He was a very small, one of the smallest in the class, but very determined to be successful. Always a little feisty, and I remember clearly having to give him a sound licking for arriving at 77% when he would normally get in the 90s.
My focus first and foremost is to empower others. There's the law of connection. Before you ask persons for help, you touch their heart. And first and foremost in my life, I seek to help other persons so that they will be able to get upon my dreams and ambitions and support me.
He always stood up for what is right and made sure that whoever he was defending got some sort of success, and the other child would know, well, it's time to back off.
My childhood was a childhood where I had a relatively small extended family. I am the only child between my parents, but I have several half-brothers and sisters who I grew up with, but not living under the same household. The decision to want to enter politics started at a very young age in primary school. Unfortunately, while in Standard 2, I had an incident where I lost a sister to murder, and it was something that made you kind of more aware of the issues impacting Trinidad and Tobago, and there were many statements that persons made that this could have been prevented. So the belief was, regardless of what I decide to do, I need to do it as great as possible and achieve success, because she was never able to do so. I am relieved that I got through to the Youth Elect TT simply because I didn't get through in the first round by the judges, but I was able to be saved by the population of Trinidad and Tobago, and it sends a message of vindication that I was brought in and I won the round having the highest amount of votes, and it's something that makes me feel happy because this is something that I'm committed to, representing the young people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Next up on our Youth Elect TT slate is candidate Abigail Caldera from Laramine. Now, she has a pretty tiny voice, but also seems to have a huge agenda.
My name is Abigail Caldera. I am from Laramine, and I will be your next Youth Prime Minister.
Many crucial situations in which the youth of Trinidad and Tobago faces, such as poverty, bullying, gender inequality, and violence.
Well, I originally grew up in San Francisco Road, Penal. As a child growing up, I was very mischievous, and I wasn't this focused in school and so on because I used to love to play. I loved to play, and cricket and sports and those stuff with my cousins, that was for me. I loved playing. In primary school, I started to settle in and start focusing more on school because I started to realize the importance of school. I think now I'm more able to settle in and be more focused in school, and now that I know what I want, I can look back in my childhood and say, you know, Abigail had a good childhood, and now she's determined to be better and help others to have that childhood that I had.
Gail always had problem with a lot of students in poverty girls, and she used to cry a lot and complain, Auntie, this girl have it, and I used to say, Abby, study hard. And she always showed that she could be different. She could be better than anything, even though they tried to bring her down. She always showed that she could do it, and she's brave at it, and no matter what anybody says, she loves to achieve whatever she goes at it.
I am often baffled at how she's able to maintain a good academic background and still be involved in essay writing competitions, debate, Model UN. Those are just three of the very many things.
I remember seeing in the newspaper that 3 candidates had a chance again to be given the opportunity to become the youth prime minister, and I said, this seems like an opportunity, it seems like an opening, so why not try again? And I rallied up my friends, and I went and opened a Facebook page, and I was all excited to give this another chance. And when I found out that I made it to being on the top 3, words cannot begin to comprehend my feelings. I was so excited, I was happy, I was like, now I believe that I was meant to be here. I was meant to be a part of this competition.
Okay, one thing that would have stood out for me would have been her participation at the parliamentary model debate. She was a little bit nervous, but she would not have let that get in the way of her participation. Abigail was so interested that she would have done most of the work without too much teacher participation. And that, to me, showed that she had an intrinsic motivation when it came to representing people and speaking out on their behalf.
I think that me being patriotic means that I would put forward my best foot, and I would try to be the best that I can be, and to show appreciation to our past generation.
Before we head to the break, let's meet candidate Nicholas Morris.
I am Nicholas Morris, and I am going to be your next Youth Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
Country. The youth policy engages every sector of youth work, whether it be sports, academics, skills development, and even activism. And governments have to ensure that those policies are upheld.
The 3 words that describe me are: 1, courageous, humble, and thirdly, experienced. I'd say I'm courageous because to be involved in youth leadership, you have to be very courageous and brave to undertake some of the issues that we have been championing and I have been championing in the past couple of years. Humble, you have to be humble enough to remain in touch with the ground and to listen to all. And experienced, there's no other young person who can beat my experience at a national, international level.
Nicholas struck me as a young man who knew exactly what he was about. He was instrumental in getting the project to fruition, if I could use that pun. And we built a relationship from then, and I got to know a bit more about him, his youth mobilization efforts, his community work, his sporting interests. He's a Sri Lankan fan. Don't know why not West Indian, but that's Nicholas. He chooses his own heroes.
I was very elated to make it through, and I say that because CNC3 plus GML has made this competition very competitive and professional in terms of the number of judges and the quality of the judges. So knowing that I was able to surpass or reach the level that they wanted, I am now happy and elated to actually move on to take it to the next level.
I realized that here was a young man who had the country at heart. What
makes me feel patriotic is our people, the beautiful, diverse background of our people. I've traveled quite a bit with the Commonwealth and the United Nations, and what I can tell you is that Trinidad and Tobago is filled with beautiful people from different backgrounds, but who are all skilled and so much talented, multi-talented, and that's what makes me patriotic and want to serve them as a young person. My childhood is quite unique, where I was born in Mayaro, or Guaguayari rather, so I grew up in a very rural area. My dad was always involved in the oil industry, being the head of oil production in the East Coast, so I was always involved with him in that industry. Being from Mayaro, I later moved to Arima, where I was highly involved in different sporting activities, and I'd say my mom always encouraged me to be a church person, so I had a very eventful childhood, but a childhood where I learned many experiences which led me to being a youth activist.